Let's take a look at the Winawer variation of the French defense. Okay, so when white plays knight to c3 to guard e4, black can play the Winawer. Bishop to b4, pinning the knight and threatening the pawn. The main line continues e5 to gain space, save the pawn, and keep that square away from that knight. Okay, now black strikes out in the center right away, attacks the base of the pawn chain, and white plays a3, and in an earlier video we saw the consequences of retreating the bishop. Now I want to look at taking the knight and then taking back. So the pawn on c3 now guards that base pawn. So this is a major position in the Winawer where a lot of the mainline variations come from this position. There are 3 or 4 moves black can typically make here. The one move I want to concentrate on in this video is the move queen to a5. It's a popular move. It attacks the c3 pawn, threatens to fork the king and the rook. So white will normally play bishop to d2 to protect that pawn and to threaten a discovery on the queen. So the queen steps out of the discovery and moves to a4. From a4, it's putting pressure on the d4 pawn. It's also putting pressure on the c2 pawn, which the queen is currently defending. It's blockading the a3 pawn, and it's forcing the rook to remain as a defender for now. Black has also accomplished taking away one of white's possible plans. White might have wanted to push the pawn to a4 and develop his bishop to a3. That would be a nice diagonal for it. So that's why this is a popular line. Okay, after queen to a4, one move, we're going to look at 2 moves here, but one move that's often made is queen to b1. And there are 2 purposes of this move. One is it threatens a fork, bishop to b5 check, winning the queen. Another purpose is to move the queen to b3 and induce the black queen to trade and fix the queenside pawn structure. So black takes care of both of those ideas with the move c4. So blocks the bishop and takes away the b3 square from the queen. However, that's a concession. When black pushes that c-pawn forward, he's locking up the pawn structure here, and black finds it hard to get counterplay on the queen side, which leaves white free to attack on the king side. And white typically starts by pushing the h-pawn. You can also develop this knight. Common response is knight to c6. White pushes it again. And now black probably wants to stop it from getting to the h6 square. So he pushes to h6 himself. Now take a look at this pawn structure I'm highlighting. I'll call that a horseshoe pawn structure. It seems to favor white. White's blockading pawns are doing a good job preventing black from pushing his g and f pawns. And white's plan is to push his g and f pawns himself and then play either g5 or f5 and start attacking on the king side. Okay, let's go back and look at another option from this position after the queen blockades on a4. Some players will play queen to g4, hitting the g7 square, and black can push the pawn to defend it, but most players don't want to weaken all the dark squares, especially with this dark squared bishop. So most people will play king to f8 here. After that, white drops the queen all the way back to d1 to defend the c2 pawn. So white has induced the black king to move over, making it harder to develop this rook now that black cannot castle. But also I'll point out a tactic here. By making this maneuver to g4 and back, white has actually defended his d4 pawn. Because if white if black tries to win that pawn, white now has this check on b4 and a discovery on the queen, and black will lose the queen. Okay, that's all I wanted to say about that particular variation. I look forward to making more videos on the Winawer very soon.